The metal detectors hummed like distant thunder, steady and indifferent, as Maya Jordan stepped into the courthouse lobby. Her heels clicked across the polished floor, sharp, certain, practiced.
I'm sorry, I cannot
She
do
had
that.
argued here 100 times. Won here. Bled here. But today the air felt wrong, like someone had dropped a sheet of ice over the room. A uniformed officer stepped into her path before she even reached the security line. Officer Brantley. Broad shoulders. Pale eyes. Jaw tight with something he didn't bother hiding. ID, he barked. Maya already held it in her hand. I'm due in Courtroom 3. Pre-trial conference. He didn't look down. Didn't reach for it. Instead, he shifted his stance, blocking her with his full body. You don't belong back there. A few heads turned. The room stilled. Maya forced her voice steady. I'm the prosecutor on this case. Brantley's lips twitched, not a smile, something meaner. Not today, you're not. The word struck harder than a shove. Maya felt heat rush up her spine. She scanned the room for another officer, another witness, anyone. But Brantley took a single step closer. You people think a suit changes something, he murmured, low enough that only she heard it. Turn around. For a breath, Maya couldn't feel her hands. The lobby lights buzzed. A woman gasped quietly near the metal detector. And then Maya saw it. Brantley's hand drifting toward his radio, thumb hovering. He was preparing to escalate. Preparing to erase her. And no one moved. The courthouse lobby was always cold in the morning, but today it felt like a winter cellar. Maya Jordan stepped through the glass doors, the weight of her trial files balanced neatly in her arm. She had prepared every hour for this pre-trial conference. Motions polished, arguments sharpened. Her case mattered. Her presence mattered. She didn't expect the ambush. Officer Brantley moved into her path before she reached the checkpoint. Not walked, moved, like a wall sliding into place. His boots planted wide. One hand resting on his belt. Eyes fixed on her with a sharp, measuring disdain. ID, he said. Maya lifted it instantly. Already ready. He didn't take it. Didn't even glance. You can't go in. Maya blinked once. I'm due in Courtroom 3. No, Brantley said, shoulders tightening. You're not. A man in line behind her paused mid-step. A woman fumbled with her purse. People knew this tone. Everyone had heard it before, directed at someone else. Today it was directed at her. Maya kept her voice level. Officer, I'm the assigned prosecutor. Brantley leaned in. Turn around. Heat crept beneath her collar. There must be a misunderstanding. No misunderstanding. He tapped a laminated sheet on his podium. Restricted entry. For whom? For you. The words cut hard. Maya scanned his face. No humor. No doubt. Just a steady, watchful malice. She tried again. My case is being called in 20 minutes. Either check my ID or let me through. Brantley lifted a brow like she'd challenged a royal decree. You people always think you can talk your way into anything. The air thinned. Someone inhaled sharply behind her. Maya's grip tightened on her files. Officer. He raised a finger. Lower your tone. My tone is normal. That's not what I'm hearing. A second officer, Ramirez, hovered near the metal detector. He shifted uncomfortably but didn't step forward. Maya angled her body slightly toward him. Officer Ramirez, you've seen me here every week. Ramirez swallowed but stayed rooted. I'm not assigned to this screening today. Cowardice disguised as protocol. Maya's pulse hammered. Brantley smirked. See? No one's vouching for you. Maya reached into her briefcase and produced her courthouse badge. This is official clearance. Brantley didn't touch it. Badge looks inactive. It was working yesterday. Things change. Frustration sparked in Maya's chest, but she forced it down. If something is wrong with my badge, direct me to administration. But you cannot stop me from entering my own court. Brantley's jaw flexed. Watch me. A tension ripple passed through the lobby. The security camera above them blinked its little red light, unbothered, silent. Just then, the courthouse administrator, Ms. Kemp, hurried in with a clipboard pressed to her chest. "What's going on here?" Brantley didn't miss a beat. "She's refusing protocol." Maya turned sharply. "That's not what happened." Ms. Kemp held up a hand. "Let's all stay calm." The phrase landed like a slap. "I'm calm," Maya said. Brantley snorted. "Doesn't sound like it." Maya felt a cold, hollow sensation in her stomach. She was being framed right in front of them, and the burden fell on her to prove her innocence. A voice called out from the metal detector area. "Maya." Defense attorney Daniel Reeves approached, brows raised. "Why are you stuck out here? Judge is expecting you." Maya exhaled once. "Ask him." Reeves turned to Brantley. "She's the prosecutor." Brantley's expression didn't change. "Could be anyone with a suit." Reeves blinked. "You've seen her here 100 times. Brantley shrugged. "Not my problem." But the balance had shifted. Witnesses. A colleague confirming her identity. Brantley's eyes flickered, searching for a new angle, a new weapon. Finally, he stepped aside. "Just an inch." "Fine. Let her through." As Maya walked past, he leaned close so only she could hear. "You think this is over," he whispered. "But you're already marked." Her breath froze. She kept walking, resisting every urge to look back. The hallway stretched long and sterile ahead of her. She reached the courtroom door just as her composure threatened to crack. She glanced over her shoulder. Brantley stood with 2 other officers, heads bent together, their glances snapping toward her like camera shutters. She wasn't imagining it. This was coordinated. And the real fight was just beginning. The hallway outside Courtroom 3 pulsed with low voices, shuffling papers, and the dry scent of old carpet. Maya steadied her breathing before pushing through the heavy wooden door. Her palms still hummed with leftover adrenaline, but she forced her expression into something neutral. Composed. Untouchable. Inside, the courtroom was already half full. Attorneys murmured at counsel tables. A clerk typed rhythmically. The judge's bench loomed above everything like a carved monument. Maya took her seat at the prosecution table, arranging her files with mechanical precision. She felt eyes on her, assessing, calculating, curious. Not hostile, not friendly. Just aware. Defense attorney Daniel Reeves leaned over from the other table. "You okay?" he whispered. "I'm fine." She wasn't. Before she could settle, the courtroom doors opened again. Maya didn't turn, but she sensed it, the shift in air, the drop in temperature. Brantley. He posted himself at the back wall, arms crossed, posture rigid. Watching her. Reeves followed her gaze and muttered, "He really followed you in here." Maya didn't answer. She didn't need to. A bailiff announced, "All rise." The judge, a stern man with a clipped grey mustache, took his seat. Everyone settled. Maya's heartbeat slowed just enough for her to speak without shaking. "State versus Delaney," the judge said. "Pre-trial conference. Ms. Jordan, you may begin." Maya stood. "Your Honor, the state is prepared to." "Hold on," the judge interrupted, peering over his glasses. "I received word that you arrived late." Maya's spine tightened. "I was here on time, Your Honor." The judge tapped a paper. "Security log says otherwise." She felt her pulse spike. That was Brantley's domain. "Of course." "Respectfully," Maya said, voice even, "I was detained at the security checkpoint without cause." The judge frowned, as if she had created an inconvenience. "Is this going to be a frequent issue, Ms. Jordan?" "No, Your Honor. Provided procedures are followed." He paused, visibly irritated. "Proceed." She inhaled once. "The state intends to introduce." The judge cut in again. "One moment. The sheriff's office also reported concerns regarding your conduct this morning." A thin hush swept across the room. Reeves straightened. "Your Honor, if I may." "No," the judge said without looking at him. "Ms. Jordan, respond." Maya's throat tightened. Brantley had moved fast. She forced her voice steady. I behaved professionally at all times. The judge exhaled sharply, a sound of skepticism. Let's focus on the case. Maya resumed her argument, but the rhythm was broken. Every sentence felt like walking on fractured ice. She explained evidentiary issues, outlined motions, countered the defense's claims, but behind every word, she felt Brantley's stare drilling into the back of her skull. At one point, she glanced toward the glass window in the courtroom door. Brantley shifted his stance deliberately, as if to remind her he was still there. Reeves rose for his turn. Your Honor, we request the state disclose. The judge nodded. Granted. Maya blinked. Granted. Without argument. Without hearing her response. She stepped forward. Your Honor, the request is overly broad and not supported. The judge raised a hand. We're not wasting time today. Maya's jaw tightened. She lowered her voice. My objections are based on procedural law, not time. He scribbled something. Objection noted. Not sustained. Not even considered. Maya sat back down, pulse hot. Reeves sent her a sympathetic look, but sympathy was useless here. When the conference ended, the judge gave her a final, pointed stare. Ms. Jordan, ensure future interactions with courthouse personnel remain professional. She didn't trust her voice enough to respond. Court is in recess. The gavel struck. A crack of wood against wood. It felt personal. As people gathered their things, Reeves approached. They're coming after you, he whispered. Not just Brantley. That whole security office is talking. I heard rumors in the hallway before the hearing. Maya stiffened. What kind of rumors? Reeves hesitated. That you're difficult. That you don't respect the process. It's garbage, obviously, but someone's feeding the narrative. Her stomach turned. They're building a record. Exactly. He lowered his voice. You need to be careful. A clerk passing by dropped her gaze quickly when Maya looked up. Another sign. Another quiet indictment. Maya gathered her files and stepped out into the hallway. Brantley was still there. He leaned against the wall, arms crossed. Heard the judge had concerns about you. His voice was low, smug. She kept walking. Get out of my way. He didn't move. Funny how things line up, isn't it? A bailiff down the hall looked toward them but hesitated, then turned away. Maya stepped closer until they were an arm's length apart. I know what you're doing. Brantley's smile didn't reach his eyes. No, you don't. She didn't trust her voice, so she walked past him without another word. Her heels struck the floor like hammer blows. As she reached the far end of the hallway, she overheard two clerks whispering near the copy machine. Said she made a scene this morning. Security flagged her. Judge already annoyed. Their voices fell to a hush when she passed. Maya kept her posture rigid, but inside, something cracked. This wasn't an isolated incident. This wasn't misunderstanding. This was strategy. Coordinated. Calculated. Someone had decided Maya Jordan was a problem, and they were shaping the narrative before she even knew the rules of the game. She pushed open the exit door into the bright noon sunlight, blinking hard. The system wasn't just failing her. It was preparing to swallow her whole. The walls of internal affairs were painted a dull beige, the kind that swallowed light instead of reflecting it. Maya sat in the stiff plastic chair across from Investigator Holt, who had been reviewing her file for the past 7 minutes without looking at her once. The silence was intentional. Holt finally closed the folder. So, he said, tone flat, you're filing a complaint against Officer Brantley. Yes. Maya kept her voice controlled. He obstructed my entry without cause, misrepresented my conduct to the judge, and... Holt raised a hand, slow and patronizing. We'll get to that. First, I need to understand your role this morning. My role? Maya blinked. I was the assigned prosecutor. Holt leaned back in his chair. What I mean is, your behavior. Your tone. Your approach with staff. Maya stared at him. My approach. He tapped a pen on his notepad. We've received a report that you were agitated and confrontational. Her pulse spiked, but she kept her expression still. A report from whom? A courthouse security officer. Holt flipped open the folder again. Officer Brantley submitted his statement shortly after you left the lobby. Of course he did. Holt slid a sheet across the table. Maya scanned the lines. Subject became argumentative, elevated voice, refused protocol, created disturbance. A complete reversal of reality. She set the paper down carefully. This is false. Holt smiled thinly, as if he had already chosen a side. Your version of events differs significantly. My version is the truth. Well, he said, that's what this process is for. Maya leaned forward. I was blocked without cause. He refused to check my ID or badge. A colleague witnessed it. The administrator saw part of it. There were bystanders. Holt scribbled something that didn't look like notes. Do you have documentation? Maya opened her binder. Time-stamped arrival. Court schedule. Witnesses willing to confirm. Holt didn't even glance at them. I'll attach these. She exhaled sharply. Are you actually taking this seriously? His eyes narrowed. Ms. Jordan, I advise you to maintain professionalism. There it was, the subtle accusation, the shifting blame. A tactic as old as the building itself. I am maintaining professionalism, she said. I'm reporting an officer who abused his authority. He sighed as if she were exhausting him. Look. These situations are complicated. Officers deal with difficult individuals every day. Sometimes misunderstandings escalate. No misunderstanding occurred. He folded his hands. You appear emotional. The word hit like a slap. I appear, Maya said slowly, accurate. Holt closed the folder with finality. We'll review the matter and contact you. She knew what that meant. No action. No accountability. No urgency. Before leaving, she asked, do I receive a copy of Brantley's complaint? Holt shook his head. Internal document. Not for distribution. Which meant Brantley could shape any narrative he wanted, behind closed doors, with no transparency. Maya walked out keeping her posture rigid. But the moment she turned down the hallway, she felt something tremble inside. Not fear, not anger, but a cold recognition. This was bigger than Brantley. At the exit, a clerk she vaguely recognized approached hesitantly. Ms. Jordan. Maya paused. Yes. The woman leaned in. I shouldn't even be saying this. She glanced around nervously. You should know. Brantley's brother sits on the county commission. People don't touch his cases. Maya froze. You're saying he's protected. The clerk swallowed. I've seen complaints disappear. Just, be careful. Before Maya could respond, the clerk slipped away. Maya stepped outside into the late afternoon heat. The sunlight burned across her cheeks, but it didn't warm her. She had suspected favoritism. She hadn't expected a shield with political teeth. Her phone buzzed. Judge Sheila Cross's name flashed across the screen. Maya answered. Judge. Daniel called me. Judge Cross's voice carried the steady gravity of someone who had weathered storms before. He said you had trouble at the entrance. That's one way to put it. What happened? Maya recounted everything, each detail, each escalation, each dismissal. Judge Cross didn't interrupt once. When Maya finished, the judge's voice hardened. You cannot confront this emotionally. You must document everything, every incident, every witness. I am. And you must protect your position. They'll try to rattle you. They'll try to drag your name before the judge again. Stay exact. Stay sharp. Maya exhaled. I'm trying. Trying isn't enough. Be strategic. Not reactive. Maya closed her eyes briefly. I understand. Good. And Maya? Yes. This isn't about your competence. This is about their fear of your competence. The words sank deep. After the call, Maya returned to her car. She opened her briefcase to grab her courthouse badge. Her heart dropped. The small green LED indicator, the one that showed activation, was dark. Badge inactive. Deactivated. She stared at it, jaw tight. Not an accident. Not a glitch. A message. She set the badge down slowly, breath steadying into resolve. The line had been crossed. And she would not step backward. Malik sat silently in the parked car, the hum of the engine fading into the background as his thoughts drifted. The events of the past weeks had changed him in ways he hadn't acknowledged until now. The injustice, the humiliation, and then the unexpected redemption. All of it had carved new lines in his understanding of the world. He watched pedestrians walk past on the sidewalk, carefree and blissfully unaware of the kind of battles that left no visible wounds. A group of teenagers laughed loudly at something on one of their phones. A woman struggled with grocery bags while her toddler tugged at her sleeve. Life went on. Always. But for Malik, something had shifted. He looked at his hands resting on the steering wheel. Steady, composed. Once, he might have been trembling with anger or fear. Now, there was resolve. A sense that he had crossed a threshold and discovered a strength he didn't know he possessed. His phone buzzed. A message from the senator. Need you to stop by tomorrow morning. Something important. Malik exhaled slowly. Since the incident, the senator had supported him relentlessly, not just as a friend of the family but as someone who saw the bigger picture. The ripple effect of the injustice, the message it sent, and the responsibility that came with stepping into the spotlight. Malik didn't want fame. He didn't want pity. He wanted change. But change always demanded someone to stand at the front. He stepped out of the car, locking it behind him as he walked toward his apartment building. The night air was cool, carrying the faint aroma of street food from a vendor down the street. Lights from the windows above spilled onto the pavement, creating soft patches of warmth along the path. As he entered the lobby, the security guard, an older man with graying hair named Mr. Rahim, gave him a nod. "You're becoming a bit of a hero these days," Mr. Rahim said with a grin. Malik chuckled. "I'm just trying to stay sane." "You're doing more than that," Mr. Rahim replied, his expression softening. "People are talking. What you went through, it's waking folks up." Malik didn't respond right away. He appreciated the sentiment, but he wasn't sure he was ready to wear the badge of changemaker. He just wanted fairness. Humanity. Upstairs, once inside his apartment, he sank onto the couch. The silence felt heavy, but not in a suffocating way, more like a pause before something important. He opened his laptop and stared at the blinking cursor on the blank screen. 4 days, he had been trying to write a statement to share publicly. Something honest. Something powerful. Something that would not only reflect his experience but also speak for those who didn't have the platform to speak for themselves. He began typing. Slowly at first. Then faster. The words came like a release. He wrote about fear, not the kind that knocks loudly, but the kind that whispers steadily so you learn to live with it. He wrote about dignity, how easily it can be stripped, and how fiercely it must be protected. He wrote about power, the kind people misuse, and the kind people don't realize they have. And then he wrote about hope. Because despite everything, despite the anger, the confusion, the pain, hope was what kept him going. An hour later, he sat back and reread the statement. His chest tightened, but in a good way. It felt right. Honest. Unfiltered. Necessary. He hit save. Tomorrow, the senator would help him address the media properly. Tomorrow, the world would hear the truth, not rumors or assumptions. Tomorrow would be the first step toward something bigger. Malik leaned back, closing his eyes. For the first time in a long while, he felt ready. Ready to speak. Ready to stand. Ready to fight, not with fists or rage, but with truth. And truth, he realized, was far more powerful than any badge, any threat, any moment of prejudice. It was the one weapon that could not be taken from him. Morning sunlight spilled across the city, warming the rooftops and stretching into the streets like a gentle announcement of a new beginning. Malik arrived at the senator's office early, a folder under his arm and a practiced calm in his expression. He had barely slept, but his mind was sharp, alert, ready. The receptionist greeted him with a respectful nod, a small change, but Malik noticed it. Days ago, people looked at him with pity or confusion. Now they looked at him with recognition. He stepped into the senator's private office. Senator Harris stood by the window, hands clasped behind his back, looking out at the city as if reading its pulse. "You're early," the senator said without turning, a faint smile in his voice. "Couldn't sleep," Malik replied. Senator Harris faced him, studying him as if assessing not just the man but the strength he carried. "You look different," the senator said. "More sure of yourself." Malik shrugged softly. "I guess you don't go through something like that and come out the same." The senator nodded. "Sit. We have a lot to discuss." Malik took a seat as the senator folded his arms and leaned against the desk. "I read your statement," the senator began. "It's powerful. Honest. It will hit people exactly where it needs to." "It was the truth," Malik said simply. "And that's exactly why it matters." There was a brief silence before the senator continued. "Malik, what happened to you wasn't just an incident. It was a catalyst. People are talking. Communities are rallying. Reporters asking questions. This is bigger than you." "I know," Malik whispered. The senator came closer, lowering his voice. "I want you to join my public justice initiative. Not as a victim. As a leader." Malik froze. "A leader," he repeated. "Yes," the senator said firmly. "You've lived the reality. You understand the fear, the injustice, the silence people are forced into. You can speak in ways I can't. You can reach people I can't. And right now, the country needs someone exactly like you." Malik looked away, absorbing the weight of those words. Leadership wasn't what he was searching for, he was searching for healing. But maybe, he thought, healing didn't come from stepping back. Maybe it came from stepping forward. What exactly would I be doing? Malik asked cautiously. Town hall meetings. Youth outreach. Speaking at civil rights panels. Helping draft better policing policies. And eventually, the senator paused, as if choosing his next words carefully. You'd become the face of this movement. Malik felt something shift inside him. Nerves, fear, pride, all tangled into one. The face of the movement, he echoed. The senator gave a gentle smile. You've already become it. The only difference now is choosing it. Malik inhaled deeply, letting the idea settle. He thought of the night he was pulled over. The officer's face. The humiliation. The helplessness. The rage he couldn't express. The thousands of others who had lived the same nightmare in different streets, different cities, different lifetimes. Maybe his voice could do something. Maybe his pain had a purpose. I'll do it, Malik said finally. But only if we make real change. Not speeches. Not temporary headlines. Real reform. That's exactly why I asked you, the senator said, extending his hand. Malik shook it, feeling the weight of the moment settle like a new armor across his shoulders. The senator's assistant knocked and poked her head in. Sir, the press is gathering downstairs. They're waiting for you and Malik. Malik's heart tightened. Press. Today. The senator chuckled. You wrote a statement, Malik. You didn't think I was going to keep it in a drawer, did you? Malik exhaled with a nervous smile. Let's do it then. They walked together toward the elevator. Malik's reflection in the glass doors caught his eye, steady posture, calm expression, eyes filled with purpose he had never seen in himself before. As they descended toward the lobby, the murmur of reporters grew louder. The moment the elevator doors opened, cameras flashed. Dozens of microphones were raised. The world was waiting. Malik stepped out, shoulders squared, heart steady. For the first time, he wasn't just surviving injustice. He was confronting it. Head on. Officer Rourke sat alone in his patrol car, engine off, fingers drumming aggressively against the steering wheel. The morning sun didn't warm him, it exposed him. Every streetlight reflection on the windshield looked like an interrogation lamp. His phone vibrated for the 10th time in 5 minutes. He didn't check it. He already knew what the messages said. News alerts. Social media tags. Internal department emails. His name, plastered everywhere. His face, circulating in clips, screenshots, slow-motion breakdowns. And that headline, the one he couldn't escape. Wrongful traffic stop goes viral, senator's son speaks out. He slammed his fist against the steering wheel. "This is ridiculous," he muttered, jaw twitching. He was nervous, that's all. Looked suspicious. Anyone would have done the same. But even he didn't believe it anymore. Another vibration. This time he looked. A message from his union rep. "Stop talking to reporters. Do not post anything online. Internal Affairs wants to see you Monday." Internal Affairs. That word numbed his fingers. He took a shaky breath, then another. "It'll blow over," he whispered. "It always blows over." But he knew the truth. This wasn't some quiet complaint. This was national. He opened the door and stepped out of the car, needing air. The station parking lot was mostly empty, but two rookie officers stood near the entrance, whispering. When they noticed him, they suddenly straightened, pretending to be busy. Rourke felt the sting in that silence. Once they looked at him with respect. Now they looked at him like a warning. He marched inside. As he passed through the lobby, every conversation dropped into a hush. Officers shifted in their seats, avoided eye contact, stared at their screens. The watch commander barely nodded at him. "Morning," Rourke said. No one responded. He forced his way down the hallway, shoulders tense, boots striking too loudly on the tile. The walls felt tighter than usual, like the building itself was closing in. Then he heard it, a voice floating from the break room. A familiar clip playing on someone's phone. Malik's voice. "We don't want revenge. We want accountability. We want safety. We want a world where a traffic stop isn't a threat." Rourke froze. Another officer added quietly, "Hard to argue with him." Rourke's pulse spiked. He burst into the doorway. Everyone in the break room fell silent. 3 officers sat around the table, their phones out, news on the screen. When they saw Rourke, they scrambled to switch apps, lock screens, pretend they were doing anything else. "What's going on here?" Rourke demanded. No answer. His chest tightened. His voice rose. "You watching that kid's little performance? You think he's telling the truth?" Still silence. One of the younger officers, barely 2 years on the job, finally spoke, voice hesitant but calm. "Sir, the video doesn't look good." Rourke stepped closer, face reddening. "I made a judgment call. That's what we do. You think you won't make a call someone questions someday?" The younger officer held his gaze. "Maybe. But I wouldn't escalate it like that." A hard, cold beat of silence filled the room. Rourke's mouth opened, but no words came out. He shook his head, storming away without another word. He entered his locker room, slammed the door behind him, and leaned against the metal. His breath came fast, uneven. His hands shook. He hated that he was shaking. He pulled out his phone again. Another message appeared. "You need a lawyer. Now." His vision blurred for a moment. A lawyer. That meant they weren't protecting him this time. He sank onto the bench. For the first time, he whispered the fear he hadn't allowed himself to say out loud. "They're going to make me the example." Outside in the hallway, footsteps passed, calm, steady, unaffected. Inside the locker room, Officer Rourke stayed frozen on the bench, feeling the world he once controlled slipping out of his hands. And he had no idea how much further he would fall. Malik sat across from Senator Hale in the quiet of the private office, the heavy curtains blocking out the city noise. The room smelled faintly of old books and polished wood, a place where decisions with consequences were made. Malik's statement lay printed on the desk between them. The senator had already read it twice. Hale leaned back in his chair. "You're not pulling punches." "I'm not interested in being polite," Malik replied. The senator tapped the paper. "This will start something. Once it's public, you can't take it back." "I don't want to take it back." The senator watched him for a long moment. "Then we're going to do this the right way." Malik exhaled quietly, bracing himself as Hale stood and walked to the window. Internal Affairs contacted me, the senator said. They're investigating Rourke. Not reviewing, not considering, investigating. Malik didn't speak. His jaw tightened. Hale continued. They've asked whether you'd be willing to provide a formal statement. On the record. Malik's mouth felt dry. You think they're actually taking this seriously? For once. Yes. Hale turned to face him. And you're the reason. Malik looked down at his hands. I didn't ask for any of this. I know, Hale said. But you're in it. And whether you want it or not, your voice has weight now. Malik let out a slow breath. What exactly are you asking me to do? Hale returned to the desk, placed both palms on the wood, and spoke plainly. I want you to testify. Malik's head snapped up. In front of Internal Affairs. In front of the Civil Rights Committee, Hale said. National. Live streamed. Public. Malik stared at him, stunned. He paused. That's massive. Exactly why it matters. Malik sat back, heartbeat thudding in his ears. The idea of going public at that level, telling his story with millions watching, felt like standing on the edge of a cliff. What if they don't listen? Malik asked quietly. They will, Hale said. Because I'm going to make sure they have to. Silence filled the room, heavy and electric. After a few seconds, Malik finally spoke. What do you need from me? The senator slid the printed statement toward him. We refine this. Tighten it. Keep your voice, but sharpen the edges. Then we prepare. Malik nodded slowly. And Rourke? Hale's gaze hardened. He's panicking. His union's pulling back. His record is under review. If he lies under oath, he's done. If he tells the truth, he's done. Malik didn't smile. It didn't feel like victory. It felt like gravity. Hale softened his tone. Malik, this won't erase what happened. It won't undo the fear you felt that night. Malik swallowed. I know. But it might stop the next man from going through it, Hale said. And that matters. Malik lowered his eyes, not in defeat, but in acceptance. Okay, he said. Tell me what comes next. Hale nodded, a subtle gesture of approval and resolve. Next, he said, we arm you with the truth. And then we let the world hear it. Malik inhaled, slow and steady, feeling the weight settle into place, heavy, but bearable. For the first time since the traffic stop, he felt like he wasn't fighting alone. Malik arrived at the precinct just after noon, the sun sharp overhead, the air thick with that strange tension buildings carry when something is about to break. He walked through the glass doors with measured steps, his expression calm but his pulse steady and tight beneath the surface. Inside, conversations dimmed. Not from hostility. From recognition. He didn't look left or right. Didn't acknowledge the officers who watched him with a new mix of guilt, curiosity, and quiet respect. He had rehearsed this moment the night before, controlled breathing, direct posture, no flinching. A receptionist stood as he approached. You're Malik Hale? She asked, voice formal. Yes. They're expecting you. Room 314. She gestured toward the hallway. Malik thanked her and walked on. Every footstep echoed. Every fluorescent light hummed a little too loudly. At the end of the hall, a door stood slightly open, 314, with a simple plaque, Internal Affairs Division. He paused once, inhaled, then knocked. A clipped voice answered. Come in. Malik pushed the door open. Inside, two investigators sat at a rectangular table. No uniforms. No badges on display. Just paperwork, recorders, and the composed neutrality of people trained not to blink. The woman on the left gestured to an empty chair. Mr. Hale. Thank you for coming. Malik took the seat. The man across from him pressed a button on a recorder. Interview with Malik Hale, regarding the misconduct investigation into Officer James Rourke. Time, 12:14 p.m. Malik folded his hands in his lap, grounding himself. The woman leaned forward. We won't keep you long. We've reviewed the footage. We've reviewed the officer's previous stops. We've read your preliminary statement. She slid a document forward. But we need your verbal account. Malik nodded. Start with the moment he approached the car, she said. Malik opened his mouth, but the door behind him suddenly clicked. Footsteps entered. He didn't turn, but the air in the room shifted. The male investigator cleared his throat. Officer Rourke. You were told to wait outside. Rourke's voice cut through the space, sharp and trembling beneath forced authority. I deserve to hear what he says about me. Malik's chest tightened, not from fear. From disgust. The woman stood. Officer, step out. Now. No, Rourke snapped. He's lying. Everyone's running with his version. Malik finally turned. Rourke stood in the doorway. Pale, unshaven, eyes red, uniform slightly wrinkled as if he'd been wearing it for days. He looked less like a man in control and more like a man desperately holding the last shred of it. Rourke's voice cracked. You're trying to ruin my career. Malik's expression stayed still. You did that yourself. Rourke flinched, a small, involuntary wince. The investigator stepped between them. Officer, this is your final warning. Rourke ignored him, eyes locked on Malik. I made a call, he said. You looked nervous. You didn't reach for your license fast enough. You people always. He stopped. Too late. The investigators exchanged a look, cold, final. The woman spoke first. Officer Rourke, please leave the room and wait to be escorted. Rourke's jaw dropped. Escorted. The male investigator closed the file. Effective immediately, you are placed on administrative leave pending disciplinary review and potential charges. Rourke staggered back a step. Charges? No, this is, you can't. Leave the room, the woman repeated. For the first time, Rourke obeyed, not out of respect, but because the foundation under him had finally caved. The door closed behind him. Silence settled. Then the woman sat again and nodded to Malik. Please continue. Malik inhaled. And he spoke. Calmly. Clearly. Not a single tremor in his voice. He detailed every second of the stop, the flashlight shoved through the window, the command to step out without cause, the tightening grip on his arm, the dismissive tone, the implicit threat. The investigators didn't interrupt. They took notes with precision. When he finished, the man pressed the recorder button again. Statement concluded at 12:41 p.m. They both closed their folders. Mr. Hale, the woman said, this testimony will significantly influence the next phase. Thank you. Malik nodded, stood, and walked out of the room. Down the hall, he passed Rourke sitting alone on a bench, face buried in his hands. For a moment, neither spoke. Then Rourke whispered, voice raw. You destroyed me. Malik stopped. He didn't turn. He didn't raise his voice. He simply said the truth. You destroyed yourself. Then he walked out of the precinct, not with triumph, but with a quiet, heavy clarity. Justice had begun. And no one could stop its momentum now. The morning of the national hearing arrived with a weight Malik felt in his bones. The city outside the hotel window buzzed with distant traffic, news vans already lining the courthouse steps like vultures waiting for movement. The world was awake early, because of him. He adjusted his tie in the mirror, the fabric stiff beneath his fingers. Behind him, Senator Hale stood reviewing briefing notes, calm in the way only seasoned politicians could be. You don't need to memorize anything, Hale said without looking up. Just speak the truth. I know. Malik inhaled. It's still a lot. It should be, Hale replied. Things that matter always are. A knock at the door interrupted them. A staffer peeked inside. They're ready. The walk from the hotel to the courthouse felt unreal. Cameras flashed, reporters shouted his name, microphones stretched toward him like reaching hands. Hale raised a single palm, a silent barrier, and the noise softened into a distant buzz. Inside the government building, everything was colder. Metal detectors. Echoing floors. The thick scent of paper and disinfectant. The low murmur of officials clearing hallways as they approached. When Malik stepped into the hearing chamber, he felt the pressure instantly. Rows of committee members. Press in the back. Livestream cameras perched like watchful eyes. And in the far corner, separated, silent, Officer Rourke, flanked by 2 union attorneys, his face hollow, jaw clenched. Malik didn't look away. A voice crackled through the speakers. Begin. Senator Hale gave him a small nod. Malik approached the microphone, the wood grain of the podium sharp beneath his fingertips. The chairwoman leaned forward. Mr. Hale, please recount the incident in your own words. Malik exhaled. And spoke. His voice carried through the room, steady, unbroken. He described the stop, the flashlight, the hostility, the unnecessary escalation. He spoke of fear without dramatizing it, humiliation without begging for sympathy. He spoke of what it meant to be treated as a threat first and a human second. During his testimony, a murmur rippled through the room when he delivered the line that had haunted him since that night. I realized it didn't matter who I was. I wasn't a citizen to him. I was a category. Rourke flinched visibly. His attorneys whispered frantically, but nothing they said steadied him. The committee members asked questions, procedural ones, emotional ones, moral ones. Malik answered all of them with precision. He didn't embellish. He didn't soften. He told the truth. At one point, a congresswoman leaned closer. When he grabbed your arm, did he state any legal reason for detaining you? No. Did he warn you beforehand? No. Did he give you any explanation afterward? Malik looked toward Rourke for the first time. No. He just said, people like you always make things difficult. The room froze. Pens stopped moving. Even the cameras seemed to pause. The chairwoman shifted her gaze to Rourke. Officer, is this accurate? Rourke opened his mouth, but his voice broke. He shut his eyes. I don't remember. His attorney squeezed his shoulder, urging him to say nothing more. The committee whispered amongst themselves, low, sharp exchanges of analysis. The chairwoman adjusted her glasses. Mr. Hale, thank you for your testimony. Please step back. Malik returned to his seat beside the senator. The room felt hot despite the air conditioning. He knew the hardest part was done, but the weight hadn't lifted yet. Across the chamber, Rourke rubbed his forehead with trembling fingers. Sweat glistened along his hairline. His attorney whispered urgently again. Then, in a crack of frustration Rourke couldn't contain, he slammed his fist against the table. Everyone's acting like I'm some kind of monster, he snapped. I was doing my job. He looked suspicious, all right? That's how they look when. He stopped too late. Gasps rose. One committee member stood abruptly. Officer Rourke, that language is fully unacceptable. The room swelled with whispered shock. Rourke stared at them, breathing hard, realizing what he'd revealed, not only to the committee, but to the entire country watching live. In that moment, something inside him cracked visibly. The mask broke. The composed officer was gone. What remained was fear, ego, and the reflexive prejudice he could no longer hide. The chairwoman signaled for security. This hearing will recess for 10 minutes. Officer Rourke, please wait outside. Malik watched silently as Rourke was escorted out, shoulders shaking, eyes unfocused. Rage warred with panic across his face. Hale leaned slightly toward Malik and whispered, low enough for no microphone to catch. That was the moment. The country just saw it. The evening news began with a banner scrolling across the screen. Prosecutors stop Sparks' national outcry, officer under investigation. Maya watched from her apartment, shoulders tense, eyes scanning the live feed. Reporters' voices overlapped, quoting Malik's testimony and dissecting every word of Rourke's floundering defense. The footage of Rourke, red-faced and shaking under questioning, replayed endlessly. Every time the camera cut to his frozen expression, Maya felt a small, bitter satisfaction. Not vengeance. Clarity. Accountability. Her phone buzzed incessantly. Texts from colleagues, friends, and journalists flooded her notifications. Each one carried the same subtext: the power dynamics had shifted. A video clip circulated showing the judge's earlier reaction during the courthouse incident, now juxtaposed with Malik's calm, controlled testimony. Commentators dissected the procedural failures, highlighting Brantley and Rourke's chain of complicity. Maya's eyes narrowed as she noticed a pattern. The system that had once tried to undermine her, that had dismissed her complaints and silenced witnesses, now faced exposure. Each oversight, each act of coded prejudice, was being documented publicly. She returned to her files, cross-referencing witness statements, arrival logs, and security camera timestamps. The patterns were undeniable: systematic obstruction, abuse of authority, and collusion. A knock on her door pulled her out of the work. It was Judge Cross. She entered without waiting for an invitation. "They're paying attention now," the judge said quietly, sitting beside Maya. "This is bigger than one officer. Your presence, Malik's testimony, it's the beginning of a reckoning." Maya didn't respond immediately. She watched the news coverage, noting how social media amplified the narrative. Clips, hashtags, trending threads. People were talking about the institution, the officers, the process. And most importantly, they were listening. Judge Cross continued, "We have to be ready for the pushback. Those who are threatened by accountability will resist, subtly and overtly. Don't underestimate them." Maya exhaled. She had been braced for this moment her entire career. Public scrutiny, professional threats, institutional pushback. But witnessing the system tremble under exposure, seeing the ripple effect of one controlled, truthful voice, she understood a larger truth. Change wasn't instant. Justice wasn't guaranteed. But transparency could be a weapon, and courage could be a shield. Across town, Officer Rourke sat in his living room, phone in hand, scrolling through news articles. Every headline was a hammer striking him: officer suspended after testimony, systemic oversight questioned, abuse of authority exposed.